So I accidentally caught an open caption screening of the movie, and I just have to share what my viewing experience was like. Nosferatu is the new movie from Robert Eggers. And I have to say, I have a complicated relationship with Eggers as a filmmaker. There are movies of his that I really like The Witch. And there are movies that I'm positive on, but still kind of mixed, like The Northman. And then there's movies that I don't like that everyone else likes, like The Lighthouse.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
And when I got out of Nosferatu, I almost didn't do a review because I felt mixed to positive about the movie and kind of felt like it was going to be a Lighthouse situation where I just wasn't seeing what everyone else was seeing. But then I tried to go to sleep that night. And let me tell you, there's something so unsettling about Nosferatu in a way that any great horror movie works. It taps into this carnal fear of the unknown and really what's inside and what you don't understand about the darkest crevices of yourself. This movie really grew on me as I kept thinking about it. That final shot haunts me in some ways, in a way that I haven't had that experience with a horror movie like that, where as much of a slow burn as it was a slow burn in its effectiveness on me as well. There's the usual great things about an Eggers movie here. Beautiful cinematography, wonderful performances, and great production design. But there's something almost more elevated here. Eggers uses color to sort of match the 1922 Nosferatu original movie in ways that are really smart and really cool. But the lighting also just feels like a step above from the original, where it's taking those concepts and elevating it even beyond the horror it could ever have imagined to have been. Same goes with the production design. I really like The Witch and The Northman because they have this feeling of this time in the past. But this movie's different because it creates not only that feeling of the past, but also illustrates the tone of the past. The fear and the paranoia of plagues, but also class types are all here to a point where sometimes I felt like I was watching a Pride and Prejudice movie. And finally, the performances are, I think, even better and more nuanced than he's ever had. Aaron Taylor Johnson, you understand his fear and his pain. Lily Rose Depp is phenomenal in the movie, and I don't think the movie works at all without her, as she's the twisted center of this piece. William Dafoe is wonderful as Van Helsing, or in the movie as he's called, in a sort of whimsical and comedic performance. And Bill Skarsgård is absolutely unrecognizable as Orlok. Like, genuinely, I do not believe you if you tell me he played Nosferatu, because it's insane. The voice, the makeup, everything completely masks who he is. And I know that's his thing, but even when you watch Pennywise, you can see his eyes in that movie. And in this one, it's just completely different. He's a different person. It's hard to explain. It's a weird experience. Now, does everything work? I don't necessarily think so. I think a lot of the themes and messages he's trying to put forth get kind of muddled and lost, and the third act feels abrupt even though it is effective. But to me, it never really feels like The Lighthouse, where it's so sort of wrapped up in its own themes and messages that it forgets that it's a movie. This has a driving force and that thriller instinct that I think is what's attracting so many audience members to the movie. So Eggers' film is this really polished rendition of a classic story like Bram Stoker's Dracula. But there is something so interesting here about what Eggers is trying to say.
Does evil come from within us? Or from beyond?
Nosferatu, traditionally as a story, has always been a fear of the other. But here, Eggers is trying to point out that sometimes the scariest things are what's actually within us. Those sort of darkest parts of our minds and our hearts that we pretend don't exist. This isn't spooky vampire comes out and gets you, but more like, do we want the spooky vampire to come out and get us? It's super fascinating, especially since it's in a movie context that has an audience that it's interacting with. Why are we seeing the movie? Why are we interested in the movie? Those are questions that he's saying are kind of scary. And I don't know, it's kind of weird that the majority of audiences are finding this movie that's so dark, so messed up, and so twisted. From SpongeBob.
Then who was flickering the lights? Nosferatu!
On my scale, Nosferatu is great. I think it was almost at like good to mid when I first watched it, but slowly as the days have passed by, I think I've gone up to a great. I really like this one, and I don't know if it's going to grow beyond even what I've said today, but I recommend going to go see this one. I can't guarantee you're going to like it, especially if you're more of a traditional audience member who goes and sees the newest Marvel movie, that kind of thing. Because it is slow and it has this sort of odd pace to it, and it's a lot of talking in rooms in uncomfortable situations. But I think if it intrigues you, it's definitely something to go see.